In 2012, I was going through the gradual process of self-indoctrination. It's a process that many who listen to the videos of Teal Swan go through. Teal and her inner circle target suicidal, depressed people deliberately. This is a fact that Teal herself states proudly. And these suffering, struggling people find solace in Teal's words. They find respite in her confidence and in her charm. But it's all too thin. Superficially, Teal's teachings sound good. They sound true to the suffering, the lonely, the innocent. They sell a sense of connectedness, a story of how everything fits together. A promise that all of these painful, chaotic things that these suffering people see in the world may one day make sense to them. But it's a lie. It's a bold-faced, unapologetic lie. This is just one of the ways that the New Age failed me. I was one of those depressed people. I was grieving, and as I mentioned in my How I Lost My Faith video, through a chance set of circumstances, I found my way onto Teal's YouTube channel. There I heard her talk about the law of attraction. It wasn't the first time I'd heard of the law of attraction, or the secret as it's sometimes known, but it was the first time that I'd heard someone talk about it in a way that sounded cohesive, sounded grounded. I thought, she understands this, it makes so much sense. I say sounded cohesive, sounded grounded, and to my younger ears, it did. But in reality, it was anything but. For a thing to be grounded, it needs to be based in fact. A grounded idea isn't a collage of unproven claims and equally fantastical mythology. For a thing to be cohesive, it needs to fit together with no holes. It needs to be verifiable. A cohesive idea isn't a claim with no proof, said with enough certainty to make the unsure falter. That's just an opinion, something that someone wants to be true, nothing more. More than believing what Teal was saying, more than having any real faith in anything, I think I just needed what she was saying to be true. Growing up and slowly internalizing the emotional consequences of difficult events that I went through, when things got difficult, I found myself at a loss more often than not. By the time I came across Teal, I had suicide on my mind more often than was healthy, and I had previously been prescribed medicine for depression. I was a vulnerable person. I was an at-risk person who needed support, encouragement, understanding. I didn't need the unqualified advice of a spiritual catalyst. I didn't need to be taken advantage of. But when you're 19 and grieving, you're vulnerable, naive, and in my case, far too trusting. My life at one point was a testament to the detriment of Teal Swan's teachings. Following her advice, I made a series of choices which ultimately led my life to being a lot less stable. And at a time when I just needed things to get better, I reached out to a number of people I've met through the community. They were all running spiritual businesses. They were all offering something as the answer to a question, a solution to a problem. Each of them in turn offered me the very best that they had to offer in exchange for my ear, my time, and my understanding of Teal's shadow work process, something that I believe is the consequence of her interpretation of Jung's shadow. The people I made this exchange with were, to my knowledge, genuine, well-intentioned people. It was promised that as a result of this exchange I would receive emotional benefits, increased spiritual health, and an improvement in my overall life situation. The benefits of these exchanges were purely psychological and short-lived. I felt better for maybe a week. After that, I saw that the reasons that I'd wanted these exchanges in the first place hadn't gone anywhere. The problems were still very much there. The questions were very much unanswered. I sought these people out because my income was virtually non-existent, because my depression had gotten worse along with my eczema and my asthma, and my living situation wasn't exactly ideal either. And I just wanted to be in Mexico. I just wanted to be with Rosa, whom I would eventually marry. Between 2012 and 2014, my personality had been hijacked by this Teal-esque worldview, by this law of attraction addled perspective. That, together with the fact that I was practicing Teal's shadow work, meant that I had alienated the people closest to me. I can't imagine I was much fun to be around, always lecturing and smiling that empty cult smile. To me, at the time, my friends were all potential converts, and my family the ones to blame for all the pain in my life. This kind of thinking's not uncommon among cult members. Meanwhile, those same friends drifted, and I kept my family at arm's length. Since my relationships with my family have returned, I've been able to rebuild those where they were damaged, but some of the friendships haven't come back despite my reaching out. I look back on those years and remember how everything was, excuse the pun, coloured by Teal and the New Age worldview. I was never anywhere completely. Anywhere I was in some way disconnected and under the guise of being more connected with myself in some way. By the end of 2014, I realised that Teal and the law of attraction had failed me. I realised I'd been lied to, sold on a fantasy. After 2 years of unfulfilled promises, of spiritual highs and these ceaselessly recurring depressive lows, after alienating my oldest friends and blaming a loving family for all my pain and shortcomings, after policing my thoughts and my feelings endlessly, I was worse off for it. I couldn't ignore that any longer. I got angry then, really angry, but I didn't acknowledge that until years later. In the years that followed, yet more promises were made by different people, and yet more promises were broken. Elaborate yarns were spun by countless authorities, cloaking myself and so many other hopefuls in delusion. For all I wanted it to be true, for all I needed it to be true at that time, I had to face facts. Having given myself to the spiritual path for so long, having put myself in the hands of teacher after teacher, guru after guru, practice after practice, lie after lie, I had to admit to myself that it wasn't working. I had to be honest with myself. None of it had worked. A film had sealed itself around my critical mind. Clever answers had defended my inability to confirm anything that I hoped was true. High concept stories and veiled arrogance kept me safe from my own scrutiny. But now that seal was cracking and I was starting to see the truth. I was starting to realise that nothing that I had taken on in those previous years had done anything other than convince me. Had I become convinced of a lie? For as long as I can remember, I've been trusting, hopeful, and a perpetual optimist. One of those things is still true. In the years since my post-cult debriefing began, I've learned that trust has to be earned and that it shouldn't necessarily be given freely. I've learned that hope is idle, that it can be a cop-out, avoidance of dealing with taking actual steps to make change and to go after the things that you need in your life. I don't waste my time listening to people claiming things that they can't prove. I'm optimistic about the fact that if something can be proven, then it will be sooner or later. I needn't waste my time investing trust in people that will squander it. I've learned to trust slowly and to use hope as a stepping stone to more practical choices. I've learned to trust myself and to question the prettiest ideas most. Most of all, I'm optimistic that through videos like this one, I'm able to make a difference. I'm optimistic that if I can tell my story, if I can be honest and open, then I can encourage others to do the same. That way, when depressed, suicidal people hear about Teal Swan, when they hear about the law of attraction, when they hear about the fanciful but ultimately deceitful ideas of the New Age, when they Google these things, they might just find one of us as well. And instead of adding one more number to Teal's YouTube subscriber list or to a Facebook group list, or, as is always the risk, to the obituary section of their local newspaper, they will instead add their name to a therapist's week planner, or maybe open up to a family member or speak to a friend that will listen and who really cares. I'm optimistic that in making videos I'm able to provide a critical, logical, rational resource for people turning away from Teal. And I'm optimistic that with this perspective shared, videos like this one might go at least some way towards reducing the number of people estranged from their family members, people alienating their closest friends, people throwing away hard-earned money and recovering false memories through Teal's processes. And most significantly, the people at death's door, because they're following the advice of an unqualified, untrained person who is unprepared to acknowledge the suffering she's causing. I need to echo the sentiment of Lloyd Evans from the John Cedars channel. If you know someone who's in a cult, please be kind. They are in that cult because in some way, maybe not in a healthy way, maybe not in the best way, but in some way, that cult is fulfilling some need for them, maybe multiple needs for them, that they have not yet found a better, healthier way to fulfill. They may be in pain, they may be suffering more than you know. So please be kind, be respectful, be polite, be considerate. Listen, ask good questions, and most importantly of all, be patient. Human psychology is a very complex thing, and these things take time. And if you're like me and you were in a cult and now you're getting out of a cult and you're still trying to make sense of everything, and you're raking through the different beliefs and the thoughts that you once had in that cult, I get it. It's not easy. It's a gradual process. It takes time, but things get better. Thanks for watching.